Freedom quilts were used by the Underground Railroad as a secret code for slaves trying to escape. These quilts were displayed as signals that they should begin to pack for the journey, if they saw a wagon wheel, and get ready to escape, tumbling blocks. Quilts were also used to alert slaves to food, with the bear's paw, the way north with the star, and danger, a log cabin. Because quilts were such an American tradition, they could be hung on porches or displayed on fences without attracting attention. Quilts were often passed down as family treasures. For many families, they were a tool as well as an art form, because patterns can be both complex and beautiful. Today, you are going to create your own Freedom quilt pattern. For this project, you'll need paper. I have different colored paper that I've color coordinated so that they all go together, but you can use what you have. I'm also using this black piece of paper for my background. You'll also need scissors, a glue stick, and then if you don't have colored paper, you can use markers and crayons. First things first, with your background sheet, you're going to create a square. So fold on the diagonal so that the corner lines up, and then cut off that extra sheet. This is going to give you a square for your background. From here, you're going to do the same thing to the colored pieces of paper that you'll use to create your pattern. So I'm going to use 3 colors. I'm going to use pink, purple, and a turquoise. Now that I have the colors I'm going to use, I'm going to begin dividing it up into smaller squares. So there's a couple ways you can fold. You can fold it into quarters, meaning I'm going to fold once each direction so that I end up with 4 sections, like so. You can see where the fold is. Now I'm going to cut it so that I have my 4 sections. If you want smaller squares, you're going to fold each side 2 times. So there's in half, and then I'm going to fold that in half again to give me 4 columns. And then I'll open that up and flip it so that now I'm going to go the same thing the other way to give me rows. So at the end of this, I will have 16 squares from that one piece of paper, and they will be smaller than the ones that I did before in purple. Once you've folded it, you're going to cut it just like the last time, cutting it on the fold line. So here are 2 different size squares that you can use for your quilt pattern. For this last piece of paper, I'm going to do a little bit of both. So 2 large squares and then 8 smaller squares. And the reason I'm showing you this is because you are going to be creating your own quilt pattern. I'm not going to be showing you necessarily how to create each one, but I'm showing you the building blocks that you can use to create your own pattern. So once you have these shapes, you can begin to create whatever pattern you want your quilt to have. So here we go. I'm cutting these in half again. So I have an assortment. I have a selection. For example, I'm going to try to create a pattern by mimicking what I do on one side on the other. So I'm playing around with my shapes. You don't have to glue right away. I want you to kind of experiment and see what works and what you like. The other thing you can do is you can cut your squares into triangles. So you can cut your larger square into triangles. You could even cut your triangles into triangles. So I'm going to get lots of different options, right? So I have my squares, I have my triangles, and see here, I'm cutting my triangles into triangles again, so I have quarter squares, quarter of a square. So here are my completed building blocks. This is what I'm going to use to begin creating a different quilt pattern. Here are some examples of quilt patterns you can do. And before you start gluing down, I want you to first play around with different shapes. See what fits. See what you like. Can you build on top of them? Can you add on? Okay? So you can create your very own freedom quilt pattern. I'm going to start gluing this first one down, and then I'm actually going to make two. So please get started. Create your own freedom quilt pattern. Okay, here are my two freedom quilt patterns. Can't wait to see yours.